If you look back at 1920s France, you find a society leaning heavily on a very specific, carefully posed ideal. The traditional family was held up as the ultimate, sacred pillar of safety and moral order. It gave people a convenient, glamorous shield. When things got complicated or the social order felt fragile, politicians and citizens alike could simply gesture at this romanticized concept to ignore deeper systemic rot. But an anarchist writer named Maximilienne decided to test that ideal against reality. In 1929, she set out to strip the formal attire off this societal mannequin. She bypassed the lofty philosophical debates entirely and went straight for the raw, daily data printed in the morning papers. When we look at that data, the foundation shifts. If this institution is truly the sturdy pillar of society, how do we explain the deep, terrifying cracks that appear the moment we actually look at it? To prove her point, Maximilienne didn't have to search through years of archives. She simply collected police blotters, what people called family stories, over a single 10-day period in December. The resulting list is dense and grim. In those few days alone, the papers reported on a girl from a wealthy household faking a robbery to steal her mother's jewelry, and a son in a rural town who retaliated against his father by burning down his entire crop. With every turn of the printing press, the violence escalated. Couples left infants and toddlers to starve without care. A divorcee took her 9-year-old son for a walk, only to throw him down and savagely trample him. Husbands and wives attacked each other with axes while they slept. The records even show spouses driven to absolute despair. In Paris, a young father threw himself from a window after his youngest son died, a death he blamed entirely on his wife's refusal to stay home and care for the sick child. Look at that dark mass of hatred, grief, and physical violence gathered in just over a week. How can an institution that consistently produces such widespread, common misery be considered our ultimate safe haven? These incidents are not random acts of human evil. Maximilienne argued that they are symptoms of a legal structure that functions more as a cage than a natural human bond. Take one specific case from her collection, an 18-year-old girl carrying the social disgrace of having 2 children out of wedlock. The children's father was entirely willing to marry her and give them the full guarantees of the civil code. But the law stepped in and blocked the marriage. According to the strict texts of the time, the young woman was required to have her father's explicit, formal consent to wed. Here is the horrifying irony. Her father stubbornly refused to give that consent, and he was making this decision while serving a prison sentence for raping another one of his daughters. The courts had simply forgotten, or didn't bother, to strip him of his paternal rights. A legal system that allows a convicted abuser to retain absolute authority over his victims is severely broken. It prioritizes rigid codes and patriarchal ownership over actual human safety. This animated diagram illustrates the core flaw in traditional households. Instead of genuine compatibility, connections are forced by caste and financial interest. Once bound, intense societal expectations lock these incompatible people together, creating a pressure cooker with no escape valve. Maximilienne used a very sharp analogy for this forced proximity. She noted that under the law, convicts are chained to one another. True friends, on the other hand, do not require chains to stay together. When you trap people inside a coercive, inescapable institution, the domestic violence seen in those police blotters becomes predictable. It is the inevitable, explosive byproduct of that pressure. Maximilienne argues that despite our talk of tradition, the family, that beautiful, noble reality we pretend to protect, does not actually exist yet in our society. The current iteration is a shoddy compromise. It is an institution designed entirely by the state to maintain public order and enforce boundaries, not to foster human happiness. We have to strip away the hypocrisy of tradition. We have to look at the meanness and wretchedness of these coerced relationships directly, without looking away. Maximilienne believed that a true family is possible, but only when it is built on an honest, deeply thoughtful pact between advanced individuals. That pact has to be rooted in friendship, mutual esteem, and strict equality. It can only survive if it is completely free from the legal and societal chains of caste and money. In that system, children won't be born out of rigid societal duty. They will be brought into the world through enthusiastic expectation and love. We cannot build that reality while clinging to a romanticized lie. Only by dismantling the coercive legal myth of the traditional family today can we clear the ground for uncoerced, genuine human